Hi, and welcome to Social Media Help Desk. Every week on Tuesdays at 12:30, we bring you a little bit of information about what's going on in social media today. What we like to do is make sure that we're educating everybody and keeping you up to date. So today I am here with Layla, a content editor, and our web designer, Daniel. Really, to get us started, we're going to jump right into it because I know that there's subjects that we want to talk about, and we'll talk about the news at the very end of this. So we're going to go ahead and get started with talking about harassment.
About social media. So whether you are running a business page on Facebook, or maybe you have you have a Twitter account for your company, there's always the potential to get harassment because these are public pages, and whenever you tweet, someone has the ability to reply.
Yeah. Or
when you make a Facebook post, people can comment or choose to share and say their own set of negative words along with it. So really, harassment can be from all types of people. It could be former employees that have developed a grudge for your company, or it could be just unhappy customers. Whoever they are, they have the ability to comment until you take action.
Right.
And so we're actually going to go over 3 different ways that you can take action. I think the most important overall statement is that you really should have someone checking in on your channels as often as possible. We are on our clients' accounts every single day.
Yeah.
And the reason for that is the longer that a comment stays on your social media, the more time it has for other people to see it.
Yeah, because all of that is public. If you're a public company, you're out there on social media on purpose, and so if people are seeing it and commenting, everybody else is seeing that too.
Yeah. And so there is also an important distinguishing factor between negative commentary and harassment. Because some instances, businesses will have negative comments, and sometimes it actually looks better as a company to try to address the negative commentary and to allow the opportunity for you to set the record straight instead of just hiding it all and not allowing people to see it.
Right. We've actually talked about that on Social Media Help Desk before, is in how to engage with someone who has, is frustrated with something or saying that you did something wrong or they're not happy with your services, and how you can turn that around by saying, you know what, let's address this. Let's talk to you and we'll figure it out. And we've seen really good results in that even.
Yeah.
So that's a totally different thing than being harassed.
Yeah, that's more, the keyword for that would be reputation management.
Yeah.
And there's definitely a lot of blogs, like you mentioned, and conversations that you can look back on. But this is really strictly about harassment. And so there are 3 actions you can take. The first thing, that's what you see most commonly when you have Facebook ads turned on, or you are a pretty viral company, is you can hide specific comments. So next to, if you're an administrator to any of the platforms, you can choose with the 3 little buttons to hide the comment, and this way it doesn't get deleted necessarily, but just anybody else who sees it from that point forward, that post, that comment won't be visible.
I have one question I want to back up on really quickly though, is at what point do you decide that someone is harassing your page?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think a personal story that I had from a client pretty recently is they had someone who kept pinging them through email, and they refused to respond through email. It was someone who's a sales guy, and then they chose to comment on every single post saying, "Hi, I emailed you. Hi, could you get back to me?" And so that is a form of harassment, because you are not even at all engaging with the content. You are just using that piece of content as a means to get in touch with the business or to show flack against the business.
Yeah.
It could also be harassment that we've seen with another client, where they just constantly kept writing, "This place is not the right place for you, don't work here," and it's just a disgruntled employee.
Yeah, just ongoing commenting that's not engaging with it, and it sounds like a lot of times it's giving the same message over and over and over again.
It's not useful at all for feedback or anything like that. It's just harassment.
Yeah.
All right, so hiding. Sorry, I interrupted you, but hiding is an option for you.
Yeah, so you have this person and they keep commenting and it has nothing to do with the post. You hide the comments. But let's say you've hidden it a few times now and they keep going. You can take the next step, which would be to ban this person from your page. Or to block. You can block people on both Twitter and Instagram. And so what this does, it makes sure that your profile is no longer visible or your company page is no longer visible to them. So when they're logged into their Facebook, they try to look up your page. They can see your page, but they can't comment or interact with it. But with Instagram and Twitter, it completely blocks you. You try to search the company name and it doesn't pop up anywhere. Okay. The third step, which this is in the most extreme situation, let's say you have someone who is very set on harassing you and they choose to set up new profiles to get in touch with you. That's when you can actually go through a more serious step where you report this person. And so that way there's actually some representatives at the social media company that we're talking about, say Facebook, that will go in and check out this person's profile, and if things do seem fishy and they are just overall a bad user, you could potentially get them in serious trouble. So,
all right.
Yeah.
I have another question about this. Like, from your experiences, I know we've all probably seen our fair share of online harassers, or sometimes they call them trolls, of people who are going through and just messing with companies or other people. In terms of if there's like a company that you really like and you're seeing somebody doing that, how does that affect you guys as like another user, not necessarily as someone who's in charge of the campaign? I'm just like, I want to give some insight of like how that affects the other people who are genuinely trying to engage.
I see a lot of times fans of that company basically kind of talk back to the people who are harassing them and kind of call them out. And it kind of helps out that brand with knowing they have a loyal support. So sometimes that's pretty cool when I see that happen.
Sometimes I think that goes like, it distracts so much though from like what the real topic is, especially if you're really trying to talk about something serious and now you've got this total tangent of a conversation where people are just going the wrong way. But it is kind of cool. Well, I don't think engaging is the right thing to do as a user, but it is kind of cool when you see somebody who like actually wants to engage. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I like that positive spin. That's a really good one. I do think like my gut reaction when I see a brand that, let's say I'm like buying a product from them and people are leaving comments like, hey, I tried to contact support and no one's getting back to me. If those are left unanswered, that is a really big red flag for me. Like I would want either it to be seen as a negative comment from the company where they're on there every day and they're saying, hey, just got your message, we're gonna look for you right now, or we just direct message you to continue this conversation. Whatever it is, there needs to clearly be an effort on the company's side that makes me believe that that's really not truly an issue.
Yeah. Or if really it is somebody who's harassing them, that they take action to, start with hiding it. So it's just like, I can't help you at this point. Sometimes there's just a moment where you're like, I can no longer be of service to you. You just you're done. And I know this. Cool. So yeah, like we talked about, that's a very different thing than having reputation management. You want to be very sure of which one it falls under. Is it something that you can be responsible for and reach out to them? Or are they just being awful and just trying to get at you? Cool. So speaking of content, not harassers who are on your content, we're going to talk a little bit about how and whether duplicate content actually hurts your brand. So Daniel, for real this time, please talk to us about that.
Well, first of all, I want to know, you guys have to guess, what is the percentage of online experiences begin on a search engine?
A percentage of experiences?
Yeah.
See, now I have a bunch of qualifying questions because Facebook is used as search and YouTube is used as search. I would guess it's somewhere between 70 and 80%.
It is 93%.
Whew,
wow.
So
that is a lot.
A lot of people are typing that into the search engine and basically picking what websites they go on based off what Google picks for them. So that's why it's important to have good search engine optimization, also known as SEO.
That actually makes a lot of sense. Remember when Chrome started saying, you don't need a URL, you can just type directly into the URL whatever you want and it immediately searches for you? I don't even know if I go straight to Facebook if I'm on my computer anymore. I might just search Facebook sometimes on accident. Okay, that's a good point.
Well,
there you go.
First of all, what is duplicate content? Duplicate content is basically any content, images that are on multiple pages of your website. The reason why it could be bad for having duplicate content on your website is because Google will search off basically certain tags. So if you have titles that are the same, you have images that are the same, it basically is competing against itself. So if you want to look for a specific page, they will be competing against themselves. So you won't have the rankings of one page over the other.
So it makes it hard for Google to distinguish the differences between the two.
Yeah.
Okay.
So a lot of time, sorry, go on.
Sorry, are you also talking about like pieces of text, or is this just images?
Oh, no, pieces of text, images, anything that Google will crawl your website and read. So
that's how images comes into play, is because images are, you tag your images, they have a name to them, and part of good SEO is making sure that they are named appropriately so that Google can crawl it. But if you're using the same thing over and over again, it's going to just see the same thing and go, I don't know.
But there's a lot of times where it's inevitable to have duplicate content, like a boilerplate. Like information like that we have on the bottom of every single blog.
Right.
You know, it's kind of the call to action. It's a little bit about ourselves. But the way we have it so it doesn't hurt our search engine optimization is by having it on the bottom. So
what's the reason for that?
Because when Google crawls your website, it basically reads it from the top to bottom.
Okay.
Oh.
Yeah.
So it's going to prioritize what's at the top, things like titles and text, before it gets to the bottom and goes.
Yeah.
Okay, we get it.
So you want to have unique headers, unique titles that really help stand out between the different pages.
Okay.
So that's some tips that we have. Also, if we want to quote someone, kind of getting content from another website, you make sure you want to have a resource for that, that quote. And then also, what we do a lot is when we build out new pages, we basically make a duplicate page of that page, and then we kind of edit that. So there is a web page that is completely duplicate, but we don't want people going on because we're working on it. So what we do is we hit no index. And so when you click no index, Google doesn't read or scan that site. So that duplicate content isn't affecting that page that's on there originally. So when it's time to swap out the pages, then you could just delete the old page and then unindex the new one. So that way it is being scanned and it doesn't compete with each other.
Right, so that indicates to Google that when they're crawling a site, and let's say you're working on a new page on your site, either you're adding a service or you're updating something. We do this a lot of times with our clients where it's like, hey, we're taking this page that already exists and we're making changes. We can then say, okay, hide this from Google. This is not ready to be crawled yet. Like, don't consider this as a part of SEO. We will let you know when we're ready.
Yeah.
So that allows you to have technically duplicate pages, but not have them crawled. Now, this is just a technical question. Can you have duplicate pages or can you have pages on your site that are just always not indexed even though they're live and like they could click through it somehow?
Yeah, you could have that. Basically,
I mean, I don't know why you would do that necessarily. I'm just saying,
so
like,
by
is it possible?
clicking no index, basically, if you put it into the search, it won't pop up.
Gotcha.
But if you type in that specific URL, then it will pull up.
Gotcha.
So you could have that specific URL as a link, and it will go to it. But if you're kind of searching key terms, that link won't pop up.
Got it. Okay.
Got it.
So that could be sometimes like landing pages,
Yeah,
where it's like,
landing
we're
pages.
directing this. You're not going to find this landing page by clicking through anything that's on the website. It's specific to a service. It's offering, we're doing a special on a specific product or something like that. And you want to push that. So you start running it in your ads. You use that URL. They're never going to get to that page by just looking through your site, but it's directed. You're gathering information. I mean, that's really what it's really good for, and sales, of course. But, being able to, that's a whole landing page thing.
Yeah.
Anyway, that helps with the indexing.
But the landing page is the perfect example of
Yeah.
That's why, in an instance, you would have the exact same content available on your website, because the only minute difference is you're like testing a button.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the only.
How does this button work?
Yeah, and so that way you're just basically letting Google know, hey, please don't judge my entire website on how many of these duplicates I have. I'm running tests that have nothing to do with you. They're all about Facebook ads.
Yeah.
Yeah, and a lot of times what I like to do for testing is basically in the search, type out, the company, just the company's name, not the URL, but just the company's name, and then see what links pop up. And you kind of want to make sure the homepage is first, and then maybe the services page and
really popular blog.
Really popular blog. Yeah, exactly. A really
we
popular
have that a
blog. You want to make sure that if you type in your company's name and the top page that is up is some page that's not even live or some page that you don't want people to go to, you don't want that being on the top. So that's a test that I like to do, is to make sure there's no duplicate content, or making sure that the pages that we want optimized to be first ranked, we spend a little extra time on those ones. And then that way you could also see if there are pages that you don't want showing on there by going in and no indexing it.
Okay, cool. So what if, and we see this a lot of like sharing content or using someone else's content that is relevant to you, what do you do about that? Like, is that okay?
Well, you don't want to plagiarize.
Right.
But you can quote people and make sure you link back to them as a resource.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So that recognizes that it's like we're referencing that this is a resource that we are referencing, and okay.
And there is a whole world of link juice out there.
Yes.
So if you constantly are taking information from other people's websites and then putting it into your own blogs, and basically 90% of the blog was written by other people, and you're pushing all your links and saying, I got my first paragraph here, my second paragraph there, the entire blog is not really going to help your rank in search.
Right.
Because what Google sees is, okay, this website is doing a good job at sharing information, but all the information that they have on their website is already available in these other places. So if someone's looking for this information, I'm going to send them to the other places first. And then if they keep going through the Google pages, eventually they'll find your website. So it doesn't necessarily help to plagiarize, but if someone very legendary has said an amazing piece of information, you could not find a better way to say it yourself, that's a good chance to then say, okay, really this link credit goes to them. That's
what it does is it says that this link and this resource that I used is a reputable content developer. They have this. I mean, you're going to look at things like the New York Times, for example, has a really high ranking because people are referencing all of their articles a lot, and so that's where you get every other news outlet might be quoting someone there. So if they're getting, and they do the same thing where they're linking out, but if they're getting links sent to them, then it's like, oh, we look good because we did this.
Yeah.
So in the end, even though duplicate content can be worked around, the best thing is to just try to avoid duplicate content so that you're actually building up your website and making it seem like a pillar that people should go for new information.
Yeah, for sure.
And if you have any questions and you're not quite sure if you have duplicate content, you can just contact us and we'll give you a free complimentary website audit. So contact us and we'll check out your website, make sure there's no duplicate content, make sure the SEO is all good and up to date, and
And another thing to look out for is Google does offer some SEO tools. One of the ones that we use by just inspecting your website, it'll crawl the entire site for you and give you, it's called Lighthouse. And it gives you, we use this all the time to just check things out, but it'll tell you how your best practices are you being compliant to certain, ADA requirements, how is your SEO ranking, and how fast is your website. Those are all going to affect the way that people interact with your site, and it's just a really good resource to look at. But if you're having a hard time interpreting that, like you said, 30-minute complimentary, we will do a web audit with you.
Yep.
So just in case you're curious. All right, so now we're going to talk about the news. We're going to go ahead and start with Facebook Messenger has created something a little bit interesting for those of you who get yourself into a lot of group chats. I know I do because I have different groups of friends that we are working. This is all personal stuff, by the way. This isn't really company-based, but just something to know. They've now made it easier for you to engage with someone specific in that group. If you're in a group of 5 people and one of those people you want to talk to specifically, you can click and hold, hit reply, send a message without intervening in the rest of that stream. Do you guys think this is helpful, or is this something that's just like an added feature just because they could? I'm not really sure.
I'm not sure either.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I haven't answered that.
I feel like it could be pretty relevant if you have a group of people and everyone is having many different conversations at once, and then someone throws in like, hey, what time is everyone free this weekend? Instead of having everyone respond and while also sharing gifts, and then just like the times are super spread out, you have one person's question where everyone replies their times. That's all kind of like grouped together, so then that person can say, all right, let's have happy hour at this hour, and instead of having it all be jumbled. So I think convenient.
I think I have to see how it interacts, because currently it's just like, okay, I have a group chat and then I have single like messages with other people, and so that's just how I've been doing it. So I don't know, maybe this is easier.
Now that I think about it, I think it actually would help, because I am in a lot of different group chats and my phone is constantly going off with irrelevant messages that I'm not involved in. My fantasy football group, they also like to golf and they like to do a lot of certain things, and I'm not much of a golfer anymore and football's over, so now I'm involved in all their golf plans and everything like that. So if they would have had like a side conversation where they could have that, that'd be great. But I still want to be a part of the group text messaging. I don't want to get kicked out. So if other things come to mind, like I would love to be a part of that. But
okay.
And to spin this entire bit like more consumer talk for Facebook, I know that Facebook is that this is headed into a direction where it can be used for business and it can be commercialized.
That's a good point. Yeah. They could just throw themselves into, you know, your office day and what you're doing. Okay. That is a good segue for that, especially because we're talking about WhatsApp next. WhatsApp is owned by Facebook, so Facebook is developing them a specific way, trying to move them forward. And they're creating something called WhatsApp Business. This is supposed to be specific to companies interacting with consumers. And you actually gave me some interesting information that I don't even think we listed here, because it's free for companies and it's going to be free for consumers to be on. And there's going to be more coming out, but you mentioned something about like a newsletter style something?
Yeah. So this is something I've been subscribed to for almost a year.
Okay.
Bloomberg was one of the first movers in that direction. And so what they have is you can use their WhatsApp business number and you can say like, yes, sign me in. And then every single day they'll send me a digest of everything that was like the top trending things on Bloomberg, which it essentially is what a company does once a month or once a week. Like, hey, here's all the important things that you need to know from what has happened the last month. And so I get that digest, and I also get direct interaction from Bloomberg whenever breaking news is happening. And so it's basically my direct line to a business, but it feels very intimate and very personal because we're having that private chat together.
Yeah, because you aren't having to go out and find it. It's something that they can then ping you on. That's interesting, because I'm curious, like, that's just feeding me information. I don't have to go look, especially if it's a company or, you know, going forward, as anybody will be able to use it. Somebody I really like and say, cool, I want to hear what you're doing. Is that something you think you would use? Are there companies you'd interact with?
Yeah, a lot of companies I interact with. I just bought a surf fin.
Okay.
I bought also a new longboard, and there were two different fins that I really wanted. And so if I wanted to reach out to them and I more sent them a message in the comments and they responded, because I wanted more specific information than what they advertised. And it's a pretty cool purchase for me, so I wanted to make sure I'm getting like the most authentic, hand-shaped, fins. So,
really getting in there for that.
Getting in there, and those are like the details of like I'm passionate about, and I want to make sure that they're passionate about it too. And there are so many different companies out there, and I kind of feel like I gravitate more towards the more passionate companies, and if they're passionate, they'd reach out to me, and they wouldn't be just kind of like that corporate company. They'd be that like company that's there for other surfers,
Okay, so this would be a really personal touch for you.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I like that. I think that's a good idea. I mean, I think Facebook has been moving towards like companies and messaging and how they're interacting, and we've talked about how they'll feed you ads now in Facebook Messenger depending on what you're following and what you've clicked on. But this is heading a direction of really communicating with people as opposed to just putting something in front of them. Gives them the opportunity to communicate and gives them good new information. Cool. So the last thing that we are going to talk about is, I'm going to call it Twitter because it is Twitter, but it's also not Twitter. The handle is at TWTTR. So you just remove the vowels, obviously. That's our answer to everything now, I think. Who needs vowels? And what this is going to be, it's basically just a beta site for Twitter. So it's going to be for selected users. I'm going to go ahead and read this off. You can access new features and allows Twitter to collect data before rolling it out completely. So companies with Twitter will have the ability to see what new things Twitter is testing. That's going to be, how they're feeding information, how, you're interacting with the site, whatever that may be. There's not total specifics yet, but then be able to provide feedback so Twitter knows, is this a good idea or not?
Yeah.
And so a lot of times they just surprise us and go, we've put this out. And we're like, oh, cool. And sometimes we're like, why did you do that? And sometimes we're like, we've been asking forever. So it's kind of nice to see that. What do you guys think of Twitter finally having a beta site?
I think it's a good idea.
Yeah.
I'm going to sign up for it just because we do a lot of content for our clients, and so you want to be on top of it. If Twitter releases some new way to engage with people, like recently they sprung memories onto us, which is a whole new tab in the Twitter feed, and it allows you to populate your favorite tweets that really stand the test of time and you want people to be able to see at any point. And so had I known about that ahead of time, I would have started to build my memories a couple months in advance.
Right.
So as soon as they launched memories, mine doesn't say 0. Mine can overnight say a couple hundred.
Yeah.
Whatever. So I think that as a business, it's awesome that you can test, and for Twitter, it's smart because you get real valuable input.
I think that's something we talk about a lot is, don't just wing your social media plan, make one. And this actually gives you a leg up because you can see what's happening before it happens for sure and go, okay, if this is a feature that's coming out, here's how I'm going to engage with it. So I'm curious to see what comes out of it. Something else to note is apparently Twitter has a podcast, which I didn't realize, and I'm very interested in listening to now. It's called Character Count, which is very cute. I'm going to give them that. And so it talks about how to use Twitter more effectively and gives you suggestions on how to use Twitter ads and what would be the best way to do it. So, yeah, I think that's a good move forward. So I just want to thank everybody, of course, my two co-hosts, Layla and Daniel, for being here with us. Sorry for mixing up your things in the beginning. I guess that's what you get for doing things live. And we just want to thank you for tuning in with us. If you do have questions, feel free to reach out. You can email us at tips@kwsmdigital.com. Also, any of this information, these are all blogs that are on our site. We post 8 times a week. You can check it out. So we will see you next week, as always, Tuesdays at 12:30 on Pacific Standard Time. And we will see you next week.